Nice. So I guess a good place to start is with your atheist origin story. How did you join the atheist club?
I was raised in the United Church of Canada, which, as you may or may not know, is probably the most liberal church on the planet as far as Christianity goes. And, we had female pastors. I think they started with female pastors in the 1930s. So, and they were the first to embrace LGBT pastors and marriage equality, and so pretty progressive. But as you all know, we do a lot of stupid things when we're teenagers. And my stupid thing to do when I was 13 was get convinced by a friend to join a Calvinist sect. So,
nice. Interesting.
So, recommend it, but so I turned from, your sort of clouds and rainbows sort of happy Christian to telling my, 7-year-old brother, if you don't repent, you're going to go to hell.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah.
It's a bit of a 180.
Just a little bit. So I just a tad. And so I went full on fundy for a few years. But I've always been a student of history my whole life. Like, I love history. And I always took lots of history in school. And so learning world history over the years, and specifically learning about the Greek and Roman pantheon and indigenous religions, I kind of went, hey, as we learn things like where lightning comes from and why we get diseases and things like that, all these old religions have become obsolete and nobody believes them anymore.
2006, I ended up laid off for a while, and that's when I started paying attention to CNN.
Ugh.
And I was like, what's with all this Bible shit on CNN? And I get more annoyed and more annoyed, and I'm like, that does it. I have to yell at some Christians. And I went online and found a Yahoo group that was run by this fundamentalist freako. And
this was super productive, right?
Oh, well, but in the long run, it became that way because
good.
At the time, like I say, I had just been, the way I became an atheist was, like I say, through history and debate and that sort of thing. Whereas a lot more people, I think, they come that way through learning about science and things like that. So I was a little different that way, and I didn't know a damn thing about evolution. I'd never heard of intelligent design or any of that shit, and I never cared. We were having that discussion with a little bit with Professor Stephen earlier. I've been the kind of person where why I'm here, I don't care, because it makes no difference to me. So people who's like, well, what do you mean you don't care where mankind came? I don't. I really don't.
What do you do while you're here?
Exactly. I'm not one of those people that need to question what's the meaning of it. The meaning of life is whatever the hell I give it. Right. But at that time, I went into this group, and I just wanted to, like, honestly just be abusive to some Christians because they would piss me off. And this was a non-moderated group, so you could say whatever the hell you want. And honestly, the Christians were as nasty as anything anyway.
Hello, everyone. This is Tris Mamone. What can I say about Deb that hasn't already been said? Instead, I'm going to read a poem, one of my favorite poems. It's called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no turning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
About their holy text? Yes! And then at the end of it, he goes, hey, can you cut that one part out for me? Because I didn't like that. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I cut it out because that was, you know.
I'm
I
jealous,
said I would,
though.
so.
I've been trying to find a Muslim who will debate me for months and months and months.
I will send you a list. I got a couple.
Oh, please, because I would love, like, live on my show or even, like, my Heretic Woman channel. I don't care. I just want to debate them because I debate them on Facebook all the time. So
yeah.
I have my arguments pretty down pat. But what translation are you reading, or do you know?
I don't know. It's a yellow book.
Heretic Woman's going to agree with me on this one. We know full well, way too many times, we're likely not going to change the mind of the person that we're arguing with.
Right.
For instance, the folks who want to apparently have you as part of their harem.
Yes,
but that's a whole other thing.
he blocked me
again.
Yes, again, because I screenshotted his tweet, his PMs, and he didn't like that very much. But
can't imagine why. Anyway, so the point that I'm going to is that we're likely not going to change the person that's reacting that way or reflex acting that way.
And that's what makes me laugh when recently I've taken on a couple of atheist bigots. And they're all like, I'm not a Christian. You can't wow me with your silly debate tactics, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass what you think, buddy. I'm like exposing you to everyone else.
Yep. And that's the piece where we can actually make a difference. Because we probably, most times, are not going to change the person that we're specifically interacting with.
That's okay. I posted yesterday about supposedly a woman in France wearing one of those burkinis that she went swimming in a pool and the owner of the building like told her to get out and that they had to pay for draining and sanitizing the pool because she wore this burkini, and I'm like, that's bullshit. And then I gotta love it because I got called. One person came on and said I was being so terribly harsh to Muslim women because I said in my post that, I think hijabs and burqas are shit, but she's got a right to dress how she wants without being persecuted. Right? And this one, you're so your attitude about hijab is terrible and you're harsh and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, whatever, bitch. And then the next person comes on is like, you support Islamists and you're terrible and you're going to destroy all the secular Arabs. And I'm like, what? Have you two met? Like, because I can't be both of those things. But I'm like, hey, at least that affirms I'm a centrist. I piss off both sides. People, man. And then I woke up today and I had two people bitching that the original article came from some pro-Islam group in France. And I'm like, I don't, so they're pro-Islam. Duh, that makes sense. And how is it any less bigoted for this guy to treat her like shit because she covered up to go in the pool?
Yeah.
outlining what the plan is and how they want to go about it. And
I was literally taught this in school. Like, I went to an evangelical boarding school, and we were literally taught the 7 mountains. These are our spheres of influence. These are the mountains we're trying to take over. You know, it was like arts and entertainment, culture, you know, almost sounded like kind of like Trivial Pursuit pieces. But, you know, in the government and Hollywood, things like that. And so,
Hollywood.
It was like that's like all the arts and culture and stuff. Yeah.
They got this whole group together, like they're all sitting around in this room, and they're like, all right, how are we taking down the entertainment business? And one guy's like, he just put the cigar out, and he's like, somebody get me Kirk Cameron.
Well, yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
As you're saying that jokingly, Robert, that's exactly what they're doing.
Look at the spate of movies like God's Not Dead 1, 2, 3. I think are they on 4 now? The Noah movie. All of these like religiously themed movies that are getting bigger budgets than they ever had before because they're trying to push this as mainstream entertainment.
Well, it comes from a Christian worldview thing. It's like this whole, because this is literally what the class was that I was taught in high school was Christian worldview. Mm-hmm. And it was like basically like, here's why all the other religions are wrong. Here's why atheism is wrong. Here's why humanism and feminism and, you know, socialism and all that is wrong. It was literally like a right-wing propaganda class. As Beth and I particularly have discussed, you know, people think that we're crazy. And I'm like, no, I literally have a binder. It's literally, I have a textbook of stuff. Like, what, you think I just typed up a textbook for myself to like make shit up? But people are like, no, you're being paranoid. And I'm like, no, there are these right-wing groups out there. I mean, if you look at it, they're also connected to like the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation and things like that. And that's who's picking our Supreme Court justices. That's who's picking our federal judges.
Turning Point.
Yeah, Turning Point USA. It's all about influencing the culture because they teach in the schools that are in these evangelical schools essentially. Atheists basically are trying, or in all other religions, are trying to use culture, arts, and media to sort of influence people to have their worldview.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I don't feel scared necessarily, but I learned a long time ago that being aware of your surroundings is very, very important. So, and you think of, if you ever watch nature shows and they talk about prey animals like bunnies and stuff, and that's kind of how they operate. They are just always sniffing the air and kind of making sure that there aren't any threats around.
Yeah, Deb was on our friend Robert Stanley's show. Was it a month ago or something like that, and was talking with Matthew as well about this past negative sexual encounter, I should say, or experience.
Well, I was molested as a child.
Yeah, okay, and Robert pointed out, you know, he pointed out that, you know, for example, and I'll paraphrase what he said, and I completely agree with what he said. You know, if I walk out in the middle of the night, like right now, if it was the middle of the night, I could walk out with not even clothes on, and I would not really be afraid of being attacked. Maybe you'd be arrested by the cops, but that's something else. But, you know, it never actually crosses my mind that I'm going to get jumped unless I come across a group of several individuals that are looking really shady. But besides that, it never, ever crosses my mind. I think most guys don't understand that women always have that on their mind.
Well, and to me, the sad part is that's born out of necessity, but it's also born out of that whole, well, what did you do to cause that to happen narrative? Yeah. Which we need to get away from that big time, because that's, I mean, it's one thing to be self-aware and to just be generally, you know, protective of yourself, because everybody does that to some degree. Like, everybody looks both ways when they cross the street, hopefully.
And if you don't, you should.
Exactly. But we need to get away from this idea that the onus of women to not be abused is on us. Like that we have to take all the precautions because we're women. That's
should have stayed
Were there signs I ignored? Can I help you not to hurt anymore? We saw brilliance when the world was asleep. They're things that we can have but can't keep. If they say who cares if one more light goes out in a sky of 1,000,000 stars, it flickers and flickers. Who cares when someone's time runs out? If a moment is all we are, we're quicker and quicker. Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do. The reminders pull the floor from your feet. In the kitchen, one more chair than you need, and you're angry, and you should be. It's not fair. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. If they say who cares if one more light goes out in a sky of 1,000,000 stars, it flickers, flickers. Who cares when someone's time runs out if a moment is all we are? We're quicker, quicker. Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do. Who cares if one more light goes out in a sky of 1,000,000 stars flickers, flickers? Who cares when someone's time runs out? If a moment is all we are, we're quicker, quicker. Who cares if one more light goes out? Well, I do. Well, we do.